Today's panel is called Connecting Authors and Readers. We'll be discussing how publishers, writers, the media, and booksellers help readers discover new books and authors. Without further ado, I'll introduce our panel and then let them tell you a little bit about what they do. To my right is Taryn Roeder, the Associate Director of Publicity at Houghton, Miflin, Harcourt. She manages the Boston-based team and works on the publicity campaigns for dozens of fiction and nonfiction books each year. Taryn's best-selling authors include Paul Tough, Temple Grandin, and the late Anthony Shadid, Peter Schweitzer, and Justin Torres. She was previously based in Washington, D.C. at Island Press, and she has an MFA in creative writing from the University of Maryland. Go Terps. Next to her is Susan Coll. Susan is the Events and Programs Director at Politics and Prose. She's the author of 4 novels, including Acceptance, which was made into a television movie starring the fabulous Joan Cusack. Her 5th novel, The Stager, will be published in July by Sarah Crichton Books at Farrar, Straus & Giroux. Next to her is Katie Dvorak, who is the Social Media Director for the Washington Independent Review of Books, a website run by a dedicated team of volunteers that publishes new reviews every weekday and covers all things book-related. Please check it out. It's at www.wirobooks.com. She also works as a copy editor for the Hill newspaper by day and can be found reading and cheering on various sports teams at night. Last but not least on the panel is Bethanne Patrick. Bethanne is the books editor at Washingtonian magazine. Her book reviews have appeared in publications such as The Washington Post, People, and O Magazine. She's blogged about books for places like Publishers Weekly, AOL, and BarnesandNoble.com. Bethanne is an active social media presence. You can find her at The Book Maven on Twitter, and she founded the popular hashtag Friday Reads. She's the author of 2 nonfiction books from National Geographic and is currently working on a novel. Now I'm going to ask the panelists to just take a minute to sort of very briefly explain what it is they do. So to maybe tell you what their job title is and then sort of explain how they connect authors to readers quickly or succinctly.
Succinctly. I'm always succinct. It's a publicist's job. So when I was trying to find my way in publishing, I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do. And then I realized there was this role where I could be working with authors and journalists and just talking about books all the time. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to send authors around the country. I want to talk about their books all the time. I want to get their books out there on the to readers. I want to connect their books to the real people who are buying the books. So publicity was the really perfect place for me. I get to do all that. I get to work with the authors before their books come out, try and figure out how's the best way to roll out their book, talk to media, and of course I love journalists of all colors and stripes.
We love her.
Read a lot and send these authors around the country and figure out how to get their book out there.
And like Taryn, I think I always dreamed of having a job that would have something to do with books. Be careful what you wish for. Now I have a job where my desk is just buried in advance copies of books, and there's just more out there than we're able to fit into the bookstore or our programs department of Politics and Prose, which is a great problem to have. My job is overseeing everything programs related at the store, which means classes, trips, trying to find ways to use authors who we can't fit into our events program, trying to even grow our events program beyond what you see in the store, where we have just a completely packed calendar with events 7 days a week. So we're looking for ways to expand that, and that's what I do.
Okay. I'm Katie. I'm the social media director for the Washington Independent Review of Books. We were founded in 2011 as a site dedicated to writing book reviews and features. We're all volunteers, so I'm just a volunteer. I have a day job, but I do this for fun. Really, everyone says there that it's a labor of love. So I post on Twitter and on Facebook to try to grow our audience, let people know that we exist, and to try to connect with readers through social media.
I'm Bethanne Patrick, and currently I'm the books editor at Washingtonian magazine, which is a wonderful dream job. I wish it could be a full-time job, and I wish it could take up 20 pages of the magazine someday when there's just so much book advertising for Washingtonian. That will happen. But in the meantime, I do other things, and one of those is to maintain an active social media presence and through Friday Reads to connect a lot of different people with books that everyone else is reading. It's something that I'm passionate about. I'm working on a book proposal right now for a nonfiction book about women and reading because I'm so passionate about it. And I will continue to look for new ways to work in this world. I've done a little bit of everything, and I find that we've got so much to discuss and discover today that I'm not sure how we'll get through it, but really happy to see you all here. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you all very much. So, as you've seen just from the brief descriptions, we've got a good variety of people who cover a lot of different things in the industry. I mean, one of the pieces that we haven't talked about is and we don't have someone representing here, the advertising world, but there is some advertising in book publishing. I just want to tell a quick anecdote. So when my first job in book publishing, I thought, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I fancy myself possibly an ad man, or as the case may be, you'll find in a second, a madman. And I thought, well, all you need to do is come up with a good tagline, and you could sell a book like that. So I said to myself, what simple, straightforward, and to the point would be a campaign tagline? And I came up with, buy this book, it won't kill you. Well, I announced it at a meeting, and let's just say that
Don Draper.
It was rejected without discussion, and there ended my advertising career. But I use that as an illustration of sort of probably not a good way to sell books. So I sort of opened the panel. Maybe we can start with Bethanne, because she's an author. She's done the social media side, the old school media side. What are some of the more effective ways you've found to get readers to pick up a book?
It really is true that word of mouth is still the most effective way to get books out at all. And so what I would say in my experience is that anything that helps replicate or expand on that word of mouth. And that's why I think social media has been so fantastic. Katie can say some more on this, I'm sure. But that's the thing about the best social media experiences. It feels like you're talking to someone in a meaningful way. And we can dissect whether or not certain things are meaningful or not, but that's what happens. And so I really feel that social media has made it much easier to get information about books. I don't know out on the web. I don't know, though, if that translates into sales. It translates into buzz about the book. It translates into people knowing about the book. A lot of them may still borrow it from a library, get it from a friend. So trying to decide about book sales is a much tougher thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that it's hard to say if it does turn into sales, but social media is so great because it's free. So you can reach a huge audience and pay nothing for it. You can reach people on Facebook, you can reach people on Twitter, you can go to lesser known sites, you can go to Google+, Instagram, and you don't have to pay a dime. And if you want to, you can do promoted ads on Facebook. We've been doing that recently, and it'll target certain people, and that you do have to pay for, but the expenses for doing that is really cheap. So that's the great thing for the independent. Since we're a nonprofit, we're also only digital. We don't have a publication that we can hand out to people. We have to use every resource we can on the internet to get the word out, and social media is the perfect way to do that.
Susan, you come from sort of the bookseller perspective, but also an author. What sort of, even anecdotally, have you heard from friends, readers, that have, besides, maybe not friends, but people who've picked up your book, who you've met at a book signing and sort of stuff, or people in the store? Are there things that have been effective? What have you seen people drive? What drives people into the store sometimes, besides the fact that it's a fabulous store and they love books?
Right. Well, driving people to the store, I think social media definitely does drive people to our events program. And it's a little bit cyclical because when people are scheduled for an event, then if they're coming through town, they often wind up on Diane Rehm or on WAMU in some other capacity. Often that will drive the Washington Post to profile the author. So, the buzz does sometimes generate actual publicity that turns people into the store. So it does. The social media does work in that respect, I'd say. Yeah.
I can add, word of mouth is so important, and that's why I'm always telling my authors, don't be shy. You have to be your own best publicist. Make a list of everybody that you would invite to your wedding. Make a list, and then tell them all about your book. And tell them however you want to tell them, if you want to send them email, if you want to put it on your Twitter, if you want to put it on your Facebook, but please don't think that they're going to think you're bragging, because this is the best way to get the word out. I personally, and that's why the line for social media with a publicist, all my feeds talk about